Clearly cut Dave out of the background. The next thing we need to do is we need to motion track him. And the reason we need to motion track him is because the camera moves. So let me show you what happens otherwise. We're going to put a background in. I'm going to go back to my project file, and I've got this background of Pandora. So I'm going to swap the magenta background with Pandora, and I'm going to move the layer. So I'm just going to get the move tool just for the sake of this, and let's move him so that we can say that it's taken off from this rock here. If we play the clip through, what's going to happen is it's going to look like he's just casually floating against a background, and it's going to look like a badly green screen clip, and we're not all about doing things badly around here. We'll do it properly. So let's get rid of that clip because it's just going to be a distraction. And I'm going to close the effects window on the right hand side, and I'm just going to load up the tracker window. I'm going to go back to the start of the clip, and I'm going to click onto the clip, and I'm going to choose track motion. Now once again it's gone back to this layer view, which is absolutely fine because fortunately with this clip we've got a person that's left us some contrast. Now what motion trackers do is we can attach them to different parts of anything, and if there's contrast it'll be able to keep the colour information. So I'm taking this down to where his sock meets his leg because we've got a nice black and white area, and I'm also going to track the rotation and the scale. So I'm going to take this second tracker here, and I'm going to place this on his other leg where his sock meets his leg. The inner box is the area of the motion tracker. The outer box is where it's going to look for that tracking information. So if I make that outer box that big, then what's going to happen is this box will keep jumping to the watch because it will see the colour information. So I don't want that to happen, so I'm going to make it quite narrow. I don't want to go as far as the short either. And then I'm going to do the same with this one. I'm going to make that quite narrow too. Now within the tracking area we can choose options, and that lets us choose whether we're tracking the red, green, blue information or the luminance or the saturation. Because we've got something that's kind of black and white contrasted, we can use luminance for this. If we're using like a coloured area to track, then we'd use RGB. And one of the things that I really like to make sure is on is stop tracking if confidence is below. And it says 80% as a default, and 80% is a pretty good measure. We're going to hit the play button. I'm just going to zoom back a little bit first so that you can see what happens. And I'm just using the H key there to reposition the screen. I'm going to hit the play button, and it's going to play the clip through, and it's going to attach these motion track points to Dave's socks. And that's it. That's motion tracking right there. It now has those track points attached to Dave's legs. Now the next thing is to actually do something with that information. So we're going to go into our layer menu, we're going to go new, and we're going to go null object. Now back to our motion tracker, we're going to edit the target and we're going to place it on the null object. We're going to hit OK, and then we're going to apply it. We want to apply the X and the Y. Okay. Now what's happened now is all of that information about position, scale and rotation has been applied to this null object. The null object doesn't actually do anything. It just sits there in the background. But all of the information of the motion tracking has been applied to that null object. And at this point, our motion tracking phase